Hello everyone, it's GZTV back with the first of two videos. The first one is going to be reviewing the 10th episode of Season 11 of The Walking Dead again, kind of closing down the series a little bit, getting into the final storylines. And in this episode, we're kind of focusing on what everyone is doing at the Commonwealth. Carol's baking, Daryl's being a cop in training, Connie's being a journalist, and there's a whole lot more. We are going to kind of discuss their roles, because that's kind of what the role of this episode is to establish the characters' roles in the Commonwealth community, and to kind of like set the tone for the rest of the series. So yeah. So the Alexandrians are now settled in the Commonwealth, which is pretty much like a utopian community. Well, some of them. As we learn from the Haunts, the 10th episode of The Walking Dead's final season, many among the group, including Daryl and Carol, accepted Lance Hornsby's offer to integrate into Commonwealth life in exchange for, safety and to not be harmed and all that stuff. Everyone else, not so much. Why do we have this feeling that Maggie's decision came with a middle finger and that she's possibly plotting against these people? This is something we're going to have to find out, as we watch the show. Certain lines, it seems, have been drawn. Maggie, Eugene, Aaron, and Lydia aren't seen among the Commonwealthians in the episode. Those are the ones right away you notice. You're like, oh shit, these people aren't going to be moving in with the Commonwealth. They want to start their own thing. We're presuming they're sticking back to rebuild Alexandria, which is something that the Commonwealth kind of agreed to try to do. Meanwhile, some of the other major players have taken up jobs and are acclimating back to society, which, surprise, surprise, is completely rife in class divides. And this show has never made it more obvious that they're focusing on the divide of people in society, and they're using this somewhat supposed to be perfect society to kind of highlight that about the current world. And there's kind of an interesting social commentary with this episode. And it's interesting. This is the first time a lot of these characters have really gone back to a civil place. The zombie ages give new meaning to the phrase, eat the rich. Daryl suggests to Judith that this new living situation is only temporary until Alexandria is rebuilt, but Judith and Lil Rick's desire to stay and live normal childhoods, plus the flash forward at the end of last episode, suggests maybe they'll be sticking around a little longer, and I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't necessarily blame them. This is, obviously, you can see deep down that this isn't a great place to live, and there's definitely some tyrannic corruption, all that stuff going on. But it's still safer than being a survivalist out in Alexandria. So here's where everyone is settled in the Commonwealth. So we're going to go through some different characters, kind of starting with Daryl and Rosita. These two are basically cops, or rather cops in training. They live in the low-income apartment housing in the Commonwealth, which is difficult for Daryl with Judith and Rick, as well as Rosita, who trades off with Gabriel to take care of baby Socorro. But if they rise in the ranks, they get better digs. They get better places to live. It's like a normal society. It's pretty typical, of life before the apocalypse. Rosita is a better team player than Daryl, so Mercer cozies up to him in the hopes of changing that attitude. At first, Daryl finds himself on the wrong side of that privileged weakling Weasel, otherwise known as Sebastian, son of Pamela Milton, who runs this town, and we've kind of met him a little bit throughout the season. He's kind of a douche. He's kind of a rich parent kid asshole, stereotypical type of character. But he later takes Mercer's advice and strokes Sebastian's ego to get a promotion. Pause. So next we get to Ezekiel. This guy runs the local petting zoo, and are we really surprised? In his past life prior to the outbreak, Ezekiel was a zookeeper in Washington, D.C., where he met the tiger Shiva. Rest in peace. We lost Shiva a long-ass time ago. He's now spotted handling cutesy animals for the kids' Halloween celebration at the Commonwealth. He's obviously found his niche in the community. He too is low on the class hierarchy, of course, and pretty much everyone that first gets into this community kind of starts off as that. According to Yumiko's brother Tommy, who's now officially a doctor again, and Yumiko had something to do with that, Ezekiel needs surgery. But he's so low on the wait list that it'll probably be too late for him by the time he moves up, and it's kind of a fucked up thing because there's only one hospital, so everyone kind of has to cram in. Can we also just talk for a second about how smoking hot actor Ian... Whoa, pause. This is written from a girl's perspective. I was just kind of reading Entertainment Weekly. Good looking man, sure. Truly aging like fine wine. We'll just leave it at that. I'm not gay. I don't swing that way. But moving on. So that brings us to Carol. So Carol is one of the more one of the bigger factors, one of the major playing characters. When Carol starts making cookies, everyone pays attention. Carol has become a baker. Did she take over for Tommy when he became a doctor? Yet she can't help but be herself, and to be the old Carol. After breaking into the hospital to get Ezekiel's records, she knows he's low on the list, so she devises a plan to change that. She tries to kind of manipulate some of the higher-ups in the area to get a higher placement for this guy, because he's probably going to die before he gets treatment, which is a pretty shitty reality to live with. Lance needs a fine wine to satisfy the guest at a party for the elites later that night, and the label he brought Pamela's secretary Max isn't cutting it, so they're kind of like testing wines for the event. It's got to be like the finest of wines, which is an interesting dynamic and something I never thought I'd be hearing about on The Walking Dead. So Carol, overhearing this, slips outside Commonwealth walls undetected, kills some walkers, and acquires the bottles he needs. Like, she's pretty observative, she says, and she knows good wines from bad. This is just the first favor she's willing to do for Lance to help Ezekiel, and Lance is just tickled by the prospect of Carol owing him favors and, doing stuff under the table for him. So getting to Connie and Kelly, it's truly a small world, even for the world of The Walking Dead. It turns out that pre-outbreak, Connie's journalism pursuits exposed a number of corrupt politicians, including Pamela's uncle, who got kicked out of Congress as a result. So that's kind of like an interesting storyline we get into with this episode. This should have been the first hint that Pamela herself was shady. So Connie is back working as a reporter at the Commonwealth, while Kelly is her interpreter. That's all they really do, is walk around with each other. Though she admits the goings-on here aren't as exciting as the work she used to do, something tells us that's all going to change. So moving on to Princess. Princess is heading to the local general store where Judith and her new friend pick up some vinyl records. Vinyl records in The Walking Dead. Any form of entertainment in The Walking Dead? It seems unfathomable. But the real joy comes from seeing her and Mercer start to become a thing. That's a really on screen. Princess isn't on the list for the fancy 1%er party that evening, but after flirting with Mercer, she becomes his date, which is really fucking weird, but whatever. Meanwhile, Magna finds herself a cater waiter for the evening's festivities, which creates an awkward situation when she has to serve Yumiko some wine. It really shows like this class divide and this privilege divide. Then an even more awkward situation happens to distract from that awkward situation. Tyler Davis was once a Commonwealth soldier, the one Princess got the drop on when she and her friends were being interviewed for admittance. Because he broke protocol, he has now fallen way down the ranks and is now working as a waiter, whereas if you're like a soldier, you get some pretty good benefits. He was hoping to speak with Pamela at the party to understand why, but of course Max shut that down. Instead, Tyler made a scene and took Max hostage at knife point. And it's kind of weird because at first I thought Max was actually Pamela, but it turns out Max is only like an assistant. An uprising is brewing among the Commonwealth's lower class, it appears. After 30 days living amongst them, Magna can understand why. Someone of her status in this community can't even taste mango, something she learned from a fellow server. Daryl is the one to find and handcuff Tyler after he escapes, but deciding to play along with the political games, he lets Sebastian be the one to card him in front of the party and turn him over to Pamela. That's what earns him a promotion, which is like really fucked up because you're like, no, Daryl, why would you do this? You want to move on in this society, but hey, he's pretty much just fucking catering for the other characters. So later on, Rosita, decked out in full Commonwealth armor, joins a sting operation in Tyler's apartment and finds a secret backroom with Eat the Rich-esque paraphernalia. Now all I want to see is walkers literally eating the rich of the Commonwealth. Yeah, these are some pretty fucked up people. I mean, obviously on the surface it seems like an amazing society to be a part of, but wow, these people are assholes. Like, Pamela is acting like she gives a damn about this Tyler guy while he's being, like, handcuffed out of the fucking room, and it's like, my God. What can you do? But, yeah, I don't really have much to say. Tonight, I think we're actually going to be playing GTA with the boys, like my friends from college, my, like, childhood friends, that type of thing, which we haven't done in a while. We haven't played with those people in a while, so that'll be interesting to do on stream. Up next here, we're going to be talking about Event Horizon, a 1997 horror movie we watched last night. Not a great movie if you guys want to know my opinion right here, but yeah, I'm still going to give you guys that video. I'm probably going to watch Dexter. I'm going to listen to Section 80, a Kendrick Lamar album, because we are going to be covering that tomorrow on the channel. And yeah, Lollapaloozas this week. Every night after the events, I'll probably get a video out for you guys. I think that would be really awesome. My dad has like a new camera coming in the mail, so that should be interesting. But yeah,